Hi, so this morning we're talking about dissociative behavior and low serotonin. Dissociative behavior is a coping mechanism to help people to heal from a traumatic experience. People don't always want to be reminded of something bad because then it would continue to trigger defensive feelings, cortisol, and that inhibits healing. So, dissociative behavior, not unlike OCD, can be a pattern that a person is in to help them cope, a coping mechanism. This morning, I had two experiences in communication with dissociative behavior, two of my lovely, wonderful neighbors. They're both older, 80 and up, and they're both Jewish. They're wonderful, amazing people. And I love them dearly. So each person in our communication, brief communication, gave an example of dissociative behavior. So, for instance, the first person, we were discussing how a woman was killed in our community by an illegal alien who should not have been in our country and who also was a terrorist. And it was a hate crime. The woman was over 80 and she was killed because of her ethnicity. And this gentleman of the same ethnicity and of the same age range said, oh, well, that could happen anywhere. And that's simply not true. We have to look at these types of behaviors and say they are not okay. And it might be uncomfortable, but we have to. So I began to think about, why would this person be disassociating in this way? What is it that's allowing him to be disassociative? Is it his peer group? Is it his social network? And then I dropped it. A second neighbor came up who's a lovely, over 80, beautiful Jewish woman. Love her dearly. And she's also a very successful mental health care provider and has been for many years from Manhattan. And she retired here with her husband in the country, mountain town, to be closer to her children. Lovely human being. And so we were talking about same kind of stuff in a way. Something came up, and I noticed that she too immediately had some dissociative type comments in our communication. And I found it very interesting that both of these highly educated, amazing people who are both liberals, okay, they're liberals, were so quick to disassociate. And it gave me some thought. So the concept of disassociation, let's talk about it in the world of adultery. So dissociative behavior would be something a person would go into for adultery. And that is a mild way to think about dissociative behavior. So I'm doing this for the first time and I can't see what's happening. So sorry. So with adultery, for instance, in adultery, a person has to disassociate to commit adultery. And adultery is committed in a monogamous marriage where it's two people in a family, not in a relationship where they're polyamorous or swinging or bisexual or whatever, freak they're on. This means you're married, you're committed to one person, and you are not supposed to be cheating. You're hiding something from the other person. An open marriage would be, oh, I'm sleeping with this person. So disassociation is a part of adultery. For someone to commit adultery, they have to disassociate from their marriage, from their life. And that way they can continue to move forward in such a way that remains healthy. So if we look at dissociative behavior, we can see that on one hand, it can be healthy because it can help us to heal. But on the other hand, dissociative behavior is related to behaviors and activities that we don't want to think about and that we don't want to talk about. And when we go into that world, people are more likely to engage in antisocial and or have impulse control around behaviors that hurt others. So what I wanted to talk about today is serotonin and dissociative behavior. When you have high levels of serotonin and high levels of dopamine, you have compassion. And when you have compassion, you don't disassociate. You care about that other person. Dissociative behavior, although it can be healing, can also be selfish. Love is, of course, the absolute opposite of being selfish. And if we recognize when we're in a pattern of dissociative behavior and we say, oops, why am I doing that? What am I trying to protect? What am I trying to hide? What am I trying to cover up? And how can I communicate something in such a way that is non-defensive and loving and kind rather than triggering a reaction that makes me want to disassociate? So that's what I'm talking about is serotonin. The more serotonin you have, the more you are okay with what's going on around you because you're coming from a place of truth and you're coming from a place of love and you're coming from a place of kindness. Serotonin controls all of those feelings. And the more serotonin you have, the more compassionate, caring, loving, and kind you are to others. The less likely you will be to disassociate from pain and suffering of another human that either you or that's going on in our society. So eat plenty of meat, raise your serotonin, don't disassociate, get in touch with what's going on, and be happy. Bye.